Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. It's Watches Tonight, and we're back talking about Audemars Piguet's possible CEO search, a Tag Heuer travesty, love for the Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra, all that and your viewer wrist shots. We might even talk a little bit about UN and GP, which just sold today. Spare a thought for the Watchbox.com, the people who pay for these pixels. 3,000 pre-owned and vintage watches up right now. All brands, sizes, styles, and budgets, yes, even in this era of insanity. Check out the Watchbox.com window shop while you keep me streaming in a separate window. All right, viewer wrist shots number one. We're jumping straight in tonight because there is a lot to say. I could see that we've got Jeb B, who's impressing with his Duomet unique travel time. Possibly the only jump hour wristwatch ever made by JLC and the most sophisticated standard Duomet. We have Jack Z, who thrills with his German Lange 1815 and Ferrari F8 Barchetta. Dan W dazzles with his family heirloom Watchbox bought Vacheron Constantin Malt Perpetual Calendar Chronograph. Robert L reclines with his Patek Philippe Cloisonné Enamel World Timer, and Richard C. of South Florida recalls our mutual encounter with Kerry Voutilainen. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to see your machine on my screen. Edward Ledden of Sweden joining in, Enrique Cassiano, we've got Joe Pinto from Louisville, Jim Millett, Watching Watches, Ben S., Watchusiast from Dubai, Marco B. from Firenze, the home of Panerai, Antelope 1013, glad to have you here, Antelope. You're new to the box as far as I can see. Welcome aboard. Hail Bop. We've got Artaud Charles from Manhattan. We've got Scott Wexlin from Chester, Pennsylvania. Burning Mr. B. Marcus of Brooklyn, Time Hill. Greg Ross, Seif K. Guys, welcome. Amit and Mikhail, welcome guys. All right, so Audemars Piguet, time for a change? It may be. Yesterday, Paris-based luxury fashion blog Miss Tweed declared unambiguously that Audemars Piguet had already begun an external search for a new CEO. Now, I don't know if this is just the online echo chamber, but Watch Pro, an industry journal, thought enough to pick up the story, which still amounts to a rumor, in this case, a second-hand rumor. But let's entertain what it would mean while being mindful that we all remember this gem from 3 years ago, which came to naught. Okay, given that all of this could be BS, let's still take a look back and recall how we got here. Current CEO François-Henri Benamia joined in 2013. He was already a 25-year veteran of Audemars Piguet, so he was not new to the brand. His accomplishments include pushing Audemars Piguet's revenues over 1 billion Swiss francs per year, cutting the number of limited editions, especially from the Royal Oak Offshore collection, which had pretty much run their course and damaged the brand by the time he came on board as CEO. Also, he refocused on the core Royal Oak collection, and while it's easy for us to say AP is over-dependent on the Royal Oak today, don't forget that before 2013, it was very much about the offshore, and it was difficult to figure out what AP would look like coming out of the carnage of the pop culture-inflected 2000s. He also created peer status with some August brands in the business, as Victoria Gomelsky, writing in the New York Times, declared that the Big Four includes Rolex, Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, and Richard Mille. Yes, there are bigger brands in aggregate at major luxury groups, but these are all freestanding, and that is good company. But Benamia's tenure has also been marked by some controversy. Launching the tendentious Code 1159 dress watch collection in 2019 brought considerable criticism both for the size and the style of these dress watches. He closed many independent retailers in favor of factory-owned stores and vertical integration. There was excessive commercial dependence on the Royal Oak in recent years. And let us not forget that in 2019, the year the Code 1159 came out, they actually had a huge insurance policy in the form of a bunch of Royal Oaks and Royal Oak chronographs. There was also the puzzling partnership with Marvel Comics. We all remember that watch. We don't need to elaborate, but not everyone loved it. And most concerning, and this is really a perhaps yet to develop story, but AP may begin to charge market-adjusted prices at authorized retailers. And given what we just said about Audemars Piguet becoming highly vertical, that is, owning its own stores and boutiques along with a few joint ventures, that would effectively mean that AP, out of its boutique, could charge whatever people are charging on Chrono24 or eBay or the aftermarket. And this would be a first in the industry. It's controversial and it hasn't fully come to pass. But the great challenge for the next AP CEO, whether it's a newcomer or Francois-Henri himself, who may very well stick around, will be to emphasize the best of the last decade while moving past some of the weaknesses and controversies. Now, Audemars Piguet. Let's quickly review what I mentioned, because I think we need to unpack this notion of a dealer charging market prices, or, as we might phrase it, the iron price. Dear indeed. Okay, this is a rumor that emerged in December, and there's a pretty sound basis for it. That's the Reddit thread from the time. On the one hand, it would basically amount to AP checking auction house results, eBay completed auctions, and Chrono24 to price its watches. And these could be the prices you pay out of the dealer. Don't forget that that watch, the Jumbo, costs about $33,000 at list price right now. So basically, look at the markup relative to retail. There's your retail price right there, $33,200. Normally, that's what you would pay at a dealer. That's the advantage of getting on a wait list and sticking it out for a year or two to get a really cool piece. But here's the deal. Matching the market price does have the upside of curtailing flippers. You're unlikely to flip a watch if you have to more or less pay the going rate on the market to buy it. Why flip a watch when you've already paid $144,000 and you know that's the best price you can get if you sell it used? But on the other hand, holy smokes, would it become expensive to buy a Royal Oak at retail? And there's that question of what happens if you're the guy who's already waited a year, you come to the front of the line, and now you're going to be paying multiples of what you thought you were going to lay out to buy that watch that you earnestly want. Let's say you're not a flipper. What happens then? Seriously, disenchanted customers. But here's the thing, this is how the car industry works, and this is how the car industry has run for a really long time, albeit with the distinction that most authorized dealers of cars, be it Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Ford, Chevy, they are franchisees. They are not the factory itself. They get the cars at a wholesale price, and then there are certain contractual terms that they maintain with the OEM, but they can more or less charge what they want and dictate the terms of sale to the end user, to the customer. AP, almost uniquely among the largest independent brands in Switzerland, now this doesn't apply to Rolex, it doesn't apply to Patek Philippe, it owns its dealers. So here is the first evidence of where we're heading. If you hover over that little I next to the price for the steel perpetual calendar, it says non-binding recommended public price in the USA. That's non-binding. They can change it, and they can change it in-house. Remember, they own their dealers. Look closer, and it becomes clear that these are not hard and fast Rolex-style MSRP, where you will get hammered for charging more or less than Rolex dictates. And here is an earlier version of that text on an archived version of the Audemars Piguet website. It reads, non-binding recommended public price in Switzerland. Authorized retail dealers are free to set the retail price for their customers. And again, remember, AP owns most of its dealers in many markets, especially in the United States these days. This is something that's been going on forever in the car world, and it often leads to friction between the dealers and OEMs, especially if it starts to reflect badly on the manufacturer. Recently, Ford and Chevy both sent threatening letters to dealers who were demanding either outsized deposits or just injurious premiums over the retail price. This is for in-demand products like the new upcoming Ford F-150 Lightning electric pickup and the Chevrolet Corvette Z06. I've also seen Mercedes dealerships on the West Coast charging as much as $300,000 over the retail price for G-Class Geländewagen SUVs, and that's on top of a $330,000 retail price. So we're talking almost a 90% premium over retail, and this is open in the car world already. It looks like the watch industry, which is often compared to the auto sector because there's a lot of crossover between car and watch enthusiasts, but it looks like the watch world is catching up to the auto retail world, and I'm not sure I like it. If AP truly does what has been rumored, and given the text on their website, they've certainly opened the door, this might be coming to an AP factory store near you. Okay, let's see what's going on. Biohazer saying, such a ridiculous business world. Why bother to put a recommended retail price on the website? Hans N, not a fan. Right here we've got Boutique One saying, crazy gray prices create a little bit of snowball effect. Here's the thing, they're usually not gray prices. Like a gray market would be if an Audemars Piguet dealer sold a watch to an aftermarket dealer at under retail, and then the aftermarket dealer sold it, having never first sold the watch to an end user. These are used watches. If I buy a watch from an AP dealer and then I sell the watch, it's a used watch. If an AP dealer sells the watch to an aftermarket vendor and then that aftermarket dealer sells to an end user, that's gray market. Okay, what else is going? We have Turkish Seamaster asking, can somebody explain the insanity on the 26331 STs? He's talking about the steel 41mm Royal Oak chronograph. Yes, it's the same insanity that exists in every other steel Royal Oak and, honestly, precious metal Royal Oak category. There are some models of the offshore that are not super hot, but vanishingly scarce. They used to be watches that routinely sold used for less than retail. Even those have perked up. Simon Holt, hey, from Hollywood, Northern Ireland. And we've got Dohar VKD saying the value on these watches is also about to crash. Possible, not a given, possible though. And then we've got CD saying hi Tim and gang, and Curtis Schmidt joining in from Hoboken, New Jersey. Hoboken, that's a cool place. I got some friends in Hoboken. And LJR35 from Dublin, Ireland. We've got Arvin T joining in from Kearney, New Jersey. And then we've got Sean Hansen saying dealers get the market price profits, not resellers. Interesting though. Yeah, exactly. The dealer would be able to realize the market price right out of the gate. Now, maybe that reduces flipping, or maybe that takes prices into the stratosphere. Maybe aftermarket prices start competing with retail prices and we see an arms race. That would be bad for everyone. I guess except dealers. What else is going on? Time Hill, Tim, do you think other houses will go the AP pricing route? Yes. I think if AP does it successfully, you can expect to see other brands do it. Remember, AP is family owned and run, which means relative to the other brands, which tend to be owned by companies that are publicly traded, AP actually has pretty good self-restraint. So if AP has taken off the shackles and decided that they're going to charge market prices, I cannot imagine CEOs who answer to shareholders saying they're not going to do the same. Turkish Meister, if you are a savvy watch lover and a follower of Tim, the whole business is turning into a jet set hobby. Yeah, it seems that way. Today we're going to talk about some watches you can buy for less than retail, in every style, size, and price point. And then right here, time stands still long for the old days when I could walk in a Rolex dealer as a young person and see some of the coolest watches in the cases and available. And then Envy Scotsman, hello Tim, pandemic predictions? We're well into the pandemic. I think at this point, everything that's going on is pandemic influenced, and the number one problem in the watch world is that a lot of rich people are sitting and shopping from home, and that's driving prices up for everyone. And then right here, 150 Turtle, are these variable prices in part caused by inflation? No, not really. If you look at the goods that have been most subject to inflation, they tend to be used cars, rents, and gas. Switzerland is pretty integrated as a manufacturer. Almost everything that goes into an Audemars Piguet watch is made within Switzerland, and there are not really supply issues. And it's certainly not a product of inflation. Like last year in the US, inflation for the full year averaged out to 7%. And that does not explain why someone's paying $150,000 for a $33,000 Audemars Piguet. So no, not standard inflation, but there is a luxury category inflation that's, I don't know, sort of a tax on impatience and impetuous buyers. All right, let's jump back into our regularly scheduled program with viewer wrist shots number 2. Simon C. hits the road with his Rolex GMT Master 2 black bezel and his Tesla Model S plaid. Motor on, my man, that is righteous. I love them both. Alan P. stuns with his Alongo Unzona Dotograph Duforograph variant. Philippe Dufour owns that model. Tausif S. rolls with Mercedes-Benz and his white gold blue dial Rolex Cosmograph Daytona. Kingsley Y. showcases good taste in ink, food, and watches with his JLC Reverso, tattoos, and fine dining. And John N. captures a rarity with his Credor GMT. Okay, guys, let's see who's in here. Thomas Burnett. We've got Zomga saying nice dotograph. We've got Mr. Valju. We've got Jacob O. saying still lots of great brands, but if this becomes the standard, we'll really take the fun out of watches for watches' sake. Yeah, I gotta agree with you. Neff is here. Steve Place is there saying it's a crazy Credor. Philip Lynn, do you feel the Geneva seal is outdated? Is it even special anymore? It is still to me. I haven't seen a genuinely bad Geneva seal watch, at least in terms of finish. So I think it still means something, especially when you compare a Geneva seal watch, even the most basic tungsten rotor Geneva seal Vacheron, to a mass-produced 2892 or 2894. It's still special. It's not as exclusive as it might have been in, say, the 60s or 70s, but I think it's still special, and I can still see the difference. But it's not the most elite. After all, Grubel Forsey, Chronometrie Fernand Berthoud, Philippe Dufour, Kari Voutilainen, Lang und Heine, and Alongo Unzona are nowhere near Geneva. All right, a crushing loss for the watch collector community. No one's died, don't worry, but this is definitely a body blow. Caliber 11 creator and developer David Chalmers announced today he will deactivate the world's definitive Tag Heuer watch information resource. Whether or not you're a collector or fan of Tag Heuer watches, Caliber11.com has been a peerless resource for the Tag Heuer community and the tag-curious watch enthusiast. While research and records on vintage Heuer watches are widely kept and shared online, very little of the vintage Heuer scene overlaps with the modern brand, as it's been owned by a sequence of investors and conglomerates since it became Tag Heuer in 1985. Caliber 11 was the foremost by far among fan sites to document, review, and archive information about modern Tag Heuer products. It was a news site as well, and its coverage of new models included the kind of access that only a formal commercial relationship with Tag Heuer could afford. And that might have been the downfall of the entire enterprise. Tag openly funded and officially sanctioned Caliber11.com. They were the primary supporter of the site, and everything you saw there, though perhaps not controlled in an editorial sense, was blessed and financed by the folks in La Chaux de Fonds. Read between the lines of this site-wide burn order published today, and it's clear that Chalmers' decision resulted from some kind of a fundamental disagreement with Tag itself about future directions for the site. And if you're watching this on a phone, I'm going to read it to you so you can hear the highlights underlined. We simply haven't been able to agree on this future. Yes, we discussed a low-touch model, a website with less time and fewer posts, but I'm very proud that Caliber 11 has never done anything by half. It just doesn't work. For me, it's 100% effort and focus or nothing at all. What this means is that at the end of February 2022, Caliber11.com, our Instagram and Twitter accounts will be deleted. And for me, this is a forehead slapper, and it seems like an overreaction. Sure, delete the social media, because that thrives on frequency and updates. There's really no point in archiving social media quick takes. But nuking the whole site and over a decade of archived model guides, tech, spec, reviews, and news? I mean, if I could beg Chalmers to keep all of this active just as a resource for people who might be researching a used watch, please make it happen. No one else dedicated that kind of passion to covering Tag Heuer, a large mass-market corporate brand that never had a face and a personality like Caliber 11 and its founder. He was a genuine jewel to the entire watch collector community, even if you weren't into Tag. A near-identical disaster for the Vacheron Constantin community occurred in 2017 when the Hour Lounge, then a decade-old forum hosted on Vacheron Constantin's corporate site, was closed and seemingly deleted in its entirety. Fortunately, many of the best Vacheron history articles from the Hour Lounge were transferred over to the Vacheron forum on watchprosite.com and continue to reside there as a sort of living archive of the best of the Hour Lounge. And much credit to TikTok, one of the moderators of the site, for moving this information over. Unless TAG Heuer actually owns the rights to the caliber 11 material and demands its withdrawal and deletion, I hope some arrangements can be made for the transfer of the site's articles to a TAG Heuer collector forum on another server. Trust me, as a community and as a forum, any prospective landing site would be lucky to have that treasure trove of information. You can also see, again, reading between the lines, why I gave up on collecting JLC here. Assuming there was pressure from TAG to either cut corners or remove the material altogether, you can see why it's impossible to have an enduring relationship with a large corporate brand. Eventually, some executive will make the decision that it's not in their interests to be connected to a collector or an enthusiast or a news resource or a fan site. Eventually, they will lose interest in the individual and the people who make up the body of their buyers. Again, I talked about companies owned by shareholders earlier today, and LVMH, Richemont, Swatch, there's very little humanity and heartbeat left there, which leads me to suspect that the reason I bailed on JLC is probably pretty close to the reason that Caliber11.com is going to get deleted. I hope that doesn't happen. Okay, a little bit of talk about Ulysse Nardin and Gerard Perregaux. It's been well known within the industry that for at least the last year, Kering, the owner of GP and UN, has been seeking some sort of a suitor willing to take one or both brands. Now, GP was bought from the Macaluso family, its owners since the early 90s, in 2011. I believe it was since the early 90s that the Macaluso family owned Gerard Perregaux. And in 2014, Ulysse Nardin was sold to Kering. So there hasn't exactly been a long-term plan to build out either brand, and what started as a rumor a few years ago about Siamesing their production into a single complex, basically one factory, two brands, that has in fact come to pass, meaning it's probably impossible to separate the two brands, and that explains why the management of the two integrated companies purchased Ulysse Nardin and Gerard Perregaux today from Kering. Now, it's hard to say exactly what the price might have been, but based on rumors in the industry, I suspect that it was somewhere between 70 and 100 million Swiss franc. I know there had been some talk of Ulysse Nardin being available for a little bit less than that, but GP was not necessarily mentioned as a package deal. Again, this is all hearsay within the industry. The problem is that these two brands have a lot of overlap. They're both offbeat kind of watch nerd brands that compete in terms of annual volume, price points, complications. Again, it's really almost like having Rolex and Omega rolled up into a single package deal. There's going to be a lot of overlap and internal competition, and I'm not sure the best way to ultimately revive these two brands is to do it under the same roof. So we'll see where this goes. Ultimately, the people who owned GP and Ulysse Nardin, the Macaluso family, and the widow of Rolf Schneider, they did well. Reportedly, Ulysse Nardin sold for something like 650 million Swiss francs, which is crazy when you consider what the combined companies probably sold for. So this is an example of why a big publicly traded luxury firm should not get involved in the watch business. It's bad for the watch business. I'll also say this, another rumor circulating in the watch world was that the CEO of Kering remarked that he spends 1 hour per year thinking about his watch group. Well, now it's 0. Okay, what's going on here? We have a lot of comments here. Okay, a lot of comments about TAG Heuer, and some folks regretting that TAG was a cool brand to own 25 years ago. And we have Abdul saying, one of my first luxury watches was a Tag, but I sold it very shortly after when I started researching more about watches. Sean Hansen saying, Tag has a place in my heart from long ago, even though I do not own one. And Blake Starr, my ex bought me a Tag when she was out cheating on me. True story. So did you keep the watch or not? Did you sell it out of spite, or was that the sole remaining piece of value that you derived from that relationship? Was that all of value you extracted from the disaster? What else is going on here? Brick Lane saying, no cure for me unless Breguet makes a regular version of the 2019 only watch. And Jim Millett, Tag Heuer was the brand that got many of us into watches 20, 30 years ago. Denny Henney saying Tag was a sought-after brand when I was a kid. And then Blake Starr saying, Tim, I want to buy a McLaren. TPG told me it would be a great investment. Well, if you're talking about a McLaren F1 and this is 10 years ago, then yeah, that'd be a great investment. Today's McLarens are mass-produced, so unless you're getting into something like a Senna or a Speedtail or a P1, probably not a great investment. By the way, also, we always thought the SLR Mercedes McLaren was a dog. I liked it, but it was always considered to be the, sorry about that. It was probably considered to be the loser among the trio of the Ferrari Enzo, the Carrera GT, and of course the SLR. Today, MSO, McLaren Special Operations, supports and customizes the SLR, and its star is rising. Its time is coming. But I'm getting off topic. Let's jump back in. We've got CD asking, what's the equivalent, the watch equivalent of my Corvette? That guy back there. I would say the watch equivalent of my Corvette is probably the Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra, a wonderful middle-of-the-road luxury watch that can be anything you want it to be. Price, style, function, complication, male, female, it serves the entire range. But before we talk about that, let's talk about this. Viewer wrist shots number 3. Matt of Oklahoma, USA shares his Rolex Submariner and 1970 Chevy Nova. The classics live forever. Prakash C., who goes by Chuck, is in Hong Kong with his Bulgari Octo Solo Tampo. Abdul R., Germany, shoots his Nomos Club Campus Amsterdam with some Ferrari flair. Mehmet K., Binghamton, New York, chills with his Olich & Weiss 350 Ci. And Spencer C. fits tonight's topic with his Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra. Guys, we are talking about the Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra, and we're jumping right in because, frankly, this might be the most versatile watch you can buy. And in an era when it seems like even Rolex Datejusts are allocated to dealers and marked up pre-owned, the Omega Seamaster Aqua Terra, in almost all of its forms, sells for less than its retail price. And yes, that includes some of the exotics, like the Ultralight. Let's see what you guys are saying right here. Muteb, Tim, what do you think of the Patek 5930G? I like it. Cool watch. Flyback chronograph with a world timer. But off topic. Let's start with the watch that led me to conclude we should be talking about the Aqua Terra tonight, which was the 2021 Aqua Terra Small Seconds. Now, I have to admit, I didn't get this watch when it first came out. It seemed like a needless fidgeting with an already good product, and I was taken aback by the number of people who contacted me last year telling me how much they liked this watch and wanted my opinion on it. And I really didn't like it, to be honest, until I saw this one in person. Two-tone, something I normally don't like, and the Small Second, a watch I was inclined to dislike out of the gate. But it's got a lot to recommend it. Color, character, and it's a bit unusual, as Small Second is a style typically reserved for pure dress watches like the Patek Philippe Calatrava. So, at 38 to 41 millimeters, the size range is good. A man can wear it, a woman can wear it. If you have a smaller wrist like I do, the 38 just sits right. It feels right. And if you're inclined to wear your Aqua Terra as more of a turf watch than a surf watch, then again, the 38 is the one to go with. But it's the subtle colors and the details of the dial that really win affection, because there's a lot of nuance here. You've got the teak deck striations from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. The outer part of the dial, the seconds and minutes, it's stepped down like an old Paul Newman Daytona, and it's in a contrasting blue with silver print in this case, but every version features contrast. We have blued hands, Omega logo, marquee, and indices. For an extra third dimension, they're applied rather than printed. And then there's a lovely sunken track with contrasting colors and an integral date window for the titular small seconds. This is a really good looking dial in every version. And unlike Rolex's 36 and 41 millimeter date justs, these Aqua Terras are available new. You can actually go into an Omega dealer and they will have them in stock. And they actually sit a few $1,000s below retail as used watches. We're starting to see examples of the small seconds as used watch. That's how I, as a used watch dealer, came across one here in my office, and it was really quite fetching, to the point that if you'd asked me a year ago whether I preferred the Aqua Terra small seconds or center seconds, I would have said load up the center seconds with the green dial and I'm done. Now, I'm actually leaning towards the rose gold and steel model with the blue slate dial and the blue strap. Why? Because it's just that good looking. And the pricing is fair. Refreshing, no? Let's see what you guys are saying here. Turkish Meister, I got to appreciate Omega for what it stands for thanks to Tim. I appreciate that. I wish I'd had a resource when I got into Omega in the late 1990s. Back then, it was time zone and chronocentric. That's, I guess, where I was first inducted into the fraternity. What is going on here? Muhammad H. Any love on the Railmaster? Yes, very much. I like both the Aqua Terra-based Railmaster of the early 2000s and the more recent Seamaster Railmaster that debuted in 2017. And I really, really love the denim version of the Seamaster Railmaster that came out in 2018. For me, that dial with that strap is probably the most interesting three-hand only watch that's made on the market today. It's a good value and it's very handsome. What else is going on? John versus Bear saying, the Aqua Terra is a modern Railmaster. I want one with a quick change strap system. We really do need to see that from the big three brands. We need to see that from Rolex, Breitling, and Omega, because in an era when Oris on the low end and AP on the high end are both doing quick release bracelets, it's time that the big three, for all their volume and influence, got with the program. We've got Ruben LYM. Good morning from Singapore, Tim. No questions, hope you've been well. Ruben, I hope you've been well, and thank you for getting up early with our show. We've got John-Claude Beaver, and we've got William Rizzo in the box, and Watching Watches saying the Aqua Terra is a great all-arounder. Daniel B. asking Planet Ocean this year. Probably not for me, but if you're gonna go with a Planet Ocean, get it in ceramic 39.5, no scratches and universally wearable. Jim Millett saying, I know Tim's a huge fan of Garrick. Check out his interview with Dave Brailsford, owner and operator of Garrick. The S4 is also discussed. And I can also say that if you want to hear more about the S4, call us and ask to speak to Jason Main. He did a full custom S4, including a green dial that turned out really nice. What else is going on? Time is money. All Omegas are so underrated, and I agree with that statement. Dylan Lamb, the Aqua Terra is the Omega I should have purchased instead of my Seamaster Professional. Traded that for my Pelagos, but still long for that blue-white Aqua Terra GMT. It's true, there are a lot of Aqua Terras. Some that I didn't mention in tonight's show include the Olympic editions, the chronograph, the GMT, the chronograph and GMT, and the day-date. There is an Aqua Terra for every wrist size, budget, and taste. And we're going to talk about many of the most interesting of them tonight. We got Mr. Valju saying, I started following Omega since Rolex stores are empty, but Omega is playing games with all of the models I want to get. I'm generally done with big brands. We got a question from Neff. Jason is still with Watchbox. Haven't seen him in a while. He's generally not on the channel, but he's one of our top guys downstairs and always worth a chat. Call him up, he'll answer. He'll talk watches all day with you. Okay, then we've got Clarkson. Well, we got Eric B saying Clarkson wears the Aqua Terra XXL. That might appear tonight because we're talking now about the 2010 Aqua Terra annual calendar. 150 meters water resistant, coaxial escapement, chronometer certified, and available in sizes as small as 38.5 millimeters. This is probably my dream Aqua Terra. A perfect size, full bracelet, wear it anywhere, the most versatile watch Omega makes. If you are looking for the Omega, the very last, the best, the only one you'll ever need, that's it right there. The perfect size, the perfect watch. Take that date just. This is the watch I recommend to a person who's asking, what is the one watch I should buy either for myself or a graduate to mark a milestone? If you think you're going to be one and done, this is the way to go. And you can buy it used, and with a 5-year warranty, get it 2 or 3 years old. You've still got a decent amount of warranty coverage and a big relief from the retail price, which can be as low as $8,300 if you get it in steel on a strap. Good deal. Okay, that is the one I would recommend you buy. But we talked about the XXL. You say Clarkson has one? Well, I bet he doesn't have this one. The Aqua Terra XXL 49.2 millimeter shack-sized chronometry for those who prefer not to go offshore with Audemars Piguet or make a big bang with Hublot. This thing is the real deal with caliber 2211, specially finished with a custom finish, sort of brushed diagonal graining and blackened bridges. It is a pocket watch sized Unitas 6497 in COSC spec, very, very cool, and 150 meters water resistant, a limited edition of 88 pieces. There's even a high lux version, which I adore, in either white gold with Breguet numerals or rose gold with a full-fired white enamel Grand Faux dial on both versions, an 88-piece limited edition in each metal. Truly special stuff, guys. But let's say you don't quite have the wrist for the XXL. You can go with the 2013 Milgauss Killer. For every Rolex, there is an Omega alternative. Sometimes you have to turn back the clock and examine the back catalog, but for the Milgauss, the 2007 to present Milgauss, this is the alternative. Anti-magnetic to over 15,000 Gauss, basically amagnetic. 43 millimeters in steel, 150 meters water resistant. It has a caliber with a fully anti-magnetic hairspring in silicon and anti-magnetic balance staff, and coaxial escapement. This watch, I mean, it's damn near indestructible. No, you can't run it over with your car or chuck it out a third-story window, but we're getting into the point where if you do manage to break this thing, it is your own damn fault. Oh, and take a look at the dial. How much do you love that varnished yellow and black magnetic flux warning seconds hand? Good stuff. That is your alternative to the white or Z-blue dial Milgauss. Fast forward to 2017, and the most exotic of Aqua Terras, the original Aqua Terra World Timer. This thing had it all. High mech and haute horlogerie from a mainstream brand with a dial of solid platinum. The hands and the indices were 18-karat yellow gold. The dial was both frosted and teak deck striated in platinum 950. So you've got yellow gold hands and indices, a solid platinum dial, and then a center dial in fired enamel like a Patek Philippe World Timer. 5131, who needs it? This was available, and with only 87 pieces made in platinum, this 43 millimeter World Timer was exclusive even by haute horlogerie standards. Also, if you want this at a lower price, Wolfgang, I know you're out there, the 2019 World Timer in steel was available for substantially under $9,000 on a strap, so you do have options there. But if you want the most exotic ever Aqua Terra, hold that thought. Let's see what you guys are saying right here. John versus Bear, the Aqua Terra Bumblebee transformed. See what he did with that? My opinion of Omega back in the day. And then right here, we've got Danny from DC joining in. Danny, I always appreciate your comments under our Watchbox videos. He's a very active member of our Watchbox communities. And right there, we've got Brick Lane saying, Grail Omega for me right there. And then Neff saying, oh, Wolfgang is out there. Haha, that guy. Yes, I agreed. If you want a Talking Time with Tim Masso Facebook group commemorative mug, contact Wolfgang. And remember to join my Facebook group, Talking Time with Tim Masso. What else is going on in the box right here? Mohammed H. saying yellow and black all of the way. And Blake Starr, he's going to start something here. I'm going to start promoting Breguet. Hell, if some idiot in Dallas can manipulate the GP market, how hard would it be to manipulate Breguet? I don't know, but you may want to ask the management of the Breguet brand for the last 20 years. harder than it looks. What else is going on here? We have Neff saying, finally an Aqua Terra I can take a pizza out of the oven with. And then right there, Jacob saying, damn, that is a great photo with the metallic filings. I thought so too. That was pretty cool. We finally found a watch for the supervillain Magneto. Okay, the most exotic ever Omega Aqua Terra, and rivaled only by the Tourbillon. This could be the most exotic Omega of any kind ever made. The 2019 Aqua Terra Ultralight. 41 millimeters titanium with a retractable crown that actually retracts into the case to protect it from impact, and a full titanium blackened manual wind custom caliber 8928 with 72 hours of power reserve. This is a movement never used on any other Omega watch. It is bespoke to the Ultralight. The dial is titanium, the case is titanium, the movement is titanium. All three are media blasted. This is a watch so resistant to shock that you can play golf or tennis while wearing it. It's also anti-magnetic and water resistant, and you can get it even pre-owned. This is a watch that retails for about $50,000. You can find them pre-owned for about $43,000. That's about 10% the price of a used Richard Mille RM55 Bubba Watson. Richard Mille, eat your heart out. I don't have to tell you, I would prefer the Omega with its exclusive movement and technology in a heartbeat over the Richard Mille, which is a combination of a borrowed Valjoux movement and a Valjean case with a third-party clasp. Let's count everything. G&F Chatelain also made the clasp. There was very little RM in the Bubba Watson. Caliber saying the Ultralight is very cool but way too expensive. Again, if you look at it differently as an alternative to RM as opposed to, say, a Sea Dweller, it seems like a pretty good deal. And then right here we have Amar asking, what about the automatic split-second Speedmaster? Yeah, that watch made from like 1999 to 2002. That's a very cool piece, the Speedmaster split-second. Pre-coaxial, so it's pretty durable too. And then Jacob O saying the Ultralight is so cool. And Thomas Burnett saying, or excuse me, BNS saying this should be the James Bond watch, and I'm inclined to agree. Dylan Lamb saying that's that $50,000 Aqua Terra. Yes, it is, but there's several different versions. You can get it in blue, you can get it in red, you can get it in green, and that's definitely the version I want. I have always been an Omega man. I've got my grandpa's retirement watch and my graduation watch. Those are my two Omegas. Someday I will add one of the like caliber 1510 marine chronometer quartz watches. What else is going on? Brooke Lane saying, yes, please, Breguet needs some marketing right now. Breguet fans out there, make yourself heard. We got Jean-Claude Beaver saying, G-Shock GA 2100. True, if you want a Cassiope, it is even more indestructible than any Omega or RM. And then Matt M saying, many Olympic competitors were wearing ultralights. That's a fact. Since 1932, Omega has been the sponsor of the Olympics. And then Turkish Meister saying James Bond should wear a Vacheron dual-time titanium. That would be kind of cool, but then again, Omega money versus Vacheron money. Omega. That's kind of how it works. It's kind of like during the Pierce Brosnan era, why didn't he start out driving an Aston Martin? Well, because of BMW money. That's why. What else is going on? Brian McCarthy saying, good to see love for Omega. And good to see you guys in the box. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining in. Thanks so much for contributing. And thank you for sending your wrist shots, because these are our viewer wrist shots part 4. Starting with Trevor F. is the #1 Japan fan with Shiba, Brew, Seiko, and Casio all at once. That is JDM overload. We've got Paul W. of Singapore relaxing with a family heirloom, his JLC Master Memovox, the world's most useful complication, the wrist alarm. Mehmet K. of Binghamton, New York, chills with his Olicon Wise 350 Ci. Harriet B. wows with a loom shot of his IWC Big Pilot Monopusher Edition Le Petit Prince overlooking the Thames in London. And Jeremy M. takes us home with his Grand Seiko White Birch Automatic and 1986 Porsche 911 3.2. Guys, send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your wrist on my list. We've got Shivam saying, I already have the G-Shock. Eddie saying, Omega is now my favorite brand. And Watching Watches saying, kindly, great show as always. Guys, thanks so much for joining, and thanks for Sean making the images happen and loading up this incredible program we have every Monday night. Until next time, time out, Tim out. Join me on Facebook, and thanks for logging on.